Okay, well, because it was just the 100th anniversary of the NFL last year or last season, I and NFL Network did their 100, their NFL 100 team. I decided myself to make my own NFL 100 team. Now, in case anybody thinks that this is me saying this is the best player ever at this position, this is the best player ever at this position, these are the best, these are the best. That's not what I am actually. That is not what this team is. This team is, if I was to assemble a team, the players I would want on the team. So some of the choices are based off of strategy. Some of them are, I'm only gonna put this many guys at this same play style on my team. Maybe not looking for as many repetitive style players. There's a lot of bias in some of the picks. There's less bias in other picks. Some picks were just no brainers. Some picks, they're one of my favorites at that position, and they're one of the best. So I put them on the team. This isn't me saying who's the best ever at each position. So as long as I clear the air with that, we should be good. And with that, let's get underway. And I thought I would start with the personnel of the team. So I have head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, and general manager. And so without further ado, let's start with the head coach. And it was pretty unanimous for me that I went with Vince Lombardi as the head coach of my NFL 100 time team. He's got a 74% win percentage in the regular season, a 90% or 9-1 in the playoffs. He is a 5-time NFL champion and one time as an offensive coordinator with the New York Giants. He had a three-peat from 65 to 68. Or 65 to 67, and then in the last 2 years, the 67 and the 68, there was a Super Bowl, so they still gave him the NFL championship, but there was also 2-time Super Bowl in there. So not a 3-time Super Bowl champion, but 3 times they were the best team in the league. They were the champions. The Super Bowls were just the first time they combined the AFL and the NFL. Then, when he was done with the Packers later on in his career, in 69, I believe it was, he went to the Redskins, in which he gave them the first winning season the franchise had had in 13 seasons. So, to me, Lombardi, no doubt, based off of his creative genius, his play calling, his rough and tough mentality, and how he ran practices, teams, the discipline, and just the guy himself, it was a no-brainer to me that I gave the head coaching position to Vince Lombardi. And I certainly believe that, I'm not saying he's the greatest, but one of the greatest head coaches to ever do it. And that's why I gave him the position for my team. At offensive coordinator, it was another no-brainer and unanimous decision to me that I gave the offensive coordinator position to Bill Walsh. He has a 61% winning percentage as a head coach in the regular season and a 71% in the postseason. He is the creator of the West Coast offense. He created it while he was in Cincinnati working under Paul Brown. He made the San Francisco dynasty that would last for years, even after he retired. And while he was still in Cincinnati before he got to San Francisco, he coached a younger Ken Anderson, and then he moved to San Diego for 1 year as offensive coordinator with Dan Fouts, and the San Diego offense saw a huge explosion, and it gave Fouts the confidence, and eventually the San Diego had 2-3 really good seasons as they were led by Fouts. Walsh is a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He retired right before the 49ers ended up repeating and winning 4. So he is only crowned, or only has 3. But it was a no-brainer to me as the creative genius and precision. And again, same thing, the way he ran teams, the way he had an eye for talent, the way he could draw plays, script plays, just the whole thing about Bill Walsh, perfection and everything. It was a no-brainer to me that I gave him the offensive coordinatorship. So then was defensive coordinator. This one was a little bit tougher, but I ended up going with Bill Parcells, former defensive coordinator for the Giants, turned head coach for the Giants, then retired for a few years after winning 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, coming back as the Patriots head coach, taking them to a Super Bowl, and then going on to Dallas. Might have stopped at one other team, I can't remember. But he had a all-time 57% winning percentage in the regular season, a 610 61% in New York, and a 58% in the postseason, and a 73% while New York with New York in the postseason. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, a 3-time conference champion, or 3 Super Bowl appearances. Him and Walsh also, they have 2 of the biggest coaching trees in history. Bill Belichick being Parcells is probably most notable, but also under that is Sean Payton. So just the way, again, it was with Parcells, the genius of Parcells, the way he handled players, the way he knew how to motivate his players. It's just the genius in Parcells. I had to give him the defensive coordinator job for my team. And that takes me to assistant head coach. And with assistant head coach, I gave it to George Seifert. He was the defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach for the 49ers in the 80s. And then when Bill Walsh stepped down, he became the head coach of the 49ers, winning 2 more Super Bowls with the 49ers. And has, as a head coach, a 77% winning percentage in San Francisco and a 66 or 67% winning percentage in the postseason with San Francisco. He is as I mentioned, he was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers dynasty, and then moved over to head coach and continued success for many years and giving the 49er fan base much to cheer about. And for my general manager, I chose John McVay. Yes, that is the grandfather of Sean McVay. John McVay was the head coach for the Giants for 3 years before the Miracle in the Meadowlands, I believe, was when the Giants ran the play, fumbled, and Herman Edwards picked it up, ran in for the touchdown. Yeah, he was the head coach during that. Obviously, I don't think he lasted very long, and he ended up, because he knew Walsh, ended up going over DeBartolo, the 49ers owner in the 80s, had been talking with McVay, and given his prior relationship with Walsh or knowing Walsh, he gladly accepted the job as kind of VP and Director of Operations or Player Relations for the 49ers in the 80s and 90s. He's most definitely very responsible for how many talented guys the 49ers brought in during the 80s and 90s. He had an eye for talent, so with him and Walsh, the talent continued to spew in. And he was definitely a huge reason why they won 5 Super Bowl championships. And so that is why I chose John McVay as my general manager for my NFL 100 team. So that is the personnel of the Nicholas Jendian's NFL 100 all-time team. So coming up next will be the quarterback reveals of the NFL 100 team, and then after that I will, keep going through offense, and then eventually we'll get through the defense, and at one point we'll do the special teams. So coming up next, though, and that'll be the last reveal for this week, is the quarterbacks. There are 3 of them. Find out which 3 quarterbacks made the list coming up next. Thank you.